My grandma, on her deathbed, decided to drop a bombshell. Not about the family fortune, oh no. She wanted me to find her long-lost first love. Apparently my grandpa was just a business arrangement. Her true love was an Omega named Liam, the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. She showed me a faded picture of a young man with eyes that could melt glaciers. She told me, "I was a coward, Damian. I let my family push me into marrying your grandfather. Because of my weakness, Liam was forced into a terrible marriage. He was abused until the day he died. Now that I'm at the end of my life, I just want to see him one last time." So, there I was, a man on a mission, feeling like a character in a tragic romance novel. The problem was, Liam was dead. How do you find a ghost? My investigation, if you can call it that, led me nowhere. I couldn't find any living relatives or any trace of this mysterious Liam. Aside from the heartbreaking story my grandma told me, defeated, I was walking through a grimy alley one freezing December night, questioning all my life choices when I saw him. A flash of silver hair under a dim streetlight. He was digging through a dumpster, his thin frame shivering in the cold. My heart twisted. But what really stopped me in my tracks was his face. It was him. It was the young man from the photograph. It's the same delicate features, the same sad, beautiful eyes. I must be losing my mind. Reincarnation? A time-traveling Omega? A long-lost twin? I approached him cautiously, my heart pounding like a drum. "Excuse me," I said, trying not to sound like a total creep. He flinched, pulling a stale piece of bread closer to his chest like it was gold. "Are you Liam?" He looked up at me, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. "How do you know my name?" he whispered. My brain short-circuited. It was actually him, the same name, same face. It was Liam, a younger version, rummaging through garbage on a cold winter's night. My grandma's tragic story suddenly became a whole lot more real and a whole lot more complicated. My heart ached for him, this beautiful creature, forced to survive like this. I knew right then and there, this wasn't just about my grandma's dying wish anymore. "It's a long story," I told him, taking off my expensive wool coat and draping it over his trembling shoulders. He looked at the coat, then back at me, as if I'd just handed him the moon. "You're freezing. Come with me. I'll get you some proper food and a warm place to stay." He was hesitant, his instincts screaming stranger danger, which fair enough, but the desperation in his eyes won out. He gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. So I, Damian, the guy who thought his biggest problem was a looming board meeting, found myself leading a beautiful, homeless Omega who looked exactly like my grandma's dead first love, out of an alley and into my life. And let me tell you, things were about to get weird and funny and ridiculously complicated. Bringing Liam home was an experience. My penthouse, which usually felt sleek and minimalist, suddenly seemed overwhelmingly large and sterile next to him. He tiptoed across the marble floor like he was afraid it would crack under his weight. I'd never seen anyone look at a fully stocked refrigerator with such genuine tear-filled awe. I told him to eat whatever he wanted. Started with an apple, eating it so slowly and deliberately, savoring every single bite. It was both heartbreaking and incredibly endearing. While he ate, I tried to figure out what to do. Call my grandma and say, "Good news. I found your dead boyfriend. Except he's alive, 20 years old, and was living in a dumpster." Yeah, that would go over well. I decided to start with the basics. "So Liam," I began, trying to sound casual. "Where's your family?" He flinched, the light in his eyes dimming. "Don't have one," he mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. "Hey." I ran away. My alpha instincts, which I usually kept firmly in check, roared to life. The urge to protect him, to wrap him in cotton wool, and keep him safe from whatever he ran from, was overwhelming. This was more than just pity. Looking at him so fragile yet so resilient, I felt a connection I couldn't explain. Was it because he looked like the man from the photo? Or was it something more? Maybe my grandma's story had a different ending, one that was just beginning with me. The next few days were a crash course in how to care for a homeless Omega 101. First order of business, clothes. Taking Liam shopping was an adventure. He'd never been in a designer store before and touched the fabrics like they were sacred artifacts. He kept looking at the price tags and turning pale. I had to practically force him to let me buy him anything. "It's too much," he'd protest. I'd just reply, "Think of it as a long-term loan." He finally relaxed a little when we got to the sweater section. He picked out a soft cashmere sweater, the color of a stormy sky, and when he put it on, he looked so comfortable, so at home, that my chest felt tight. Seeing him smile, a real, genuine smile, was like watching the sun come out after a long winter. Then came the questions. I had to know more about him, but I didn't want to scare him off. We'd sit in my living room drinking hot chocolate, and I'd gently probe. I learned he grew up in a strict rural community that wasn't kind to Omegas. He was supposed to be paired with a cruel alpha, and he ran away the night before the ceremony with nothing but the clothes on his back. The more he talked, the more the pieces clicked into place. His story was eerily similar to the one my grandma told me about the original Liam. It was too much to be a coincidence. Was this some kind of cosmic do-over? Second chance? Not for my grandma, but for him? Living with Liam was distracting in the best way possible. The silence of my apartment was replaced by the soft sound of his humming. While he cooked, he was an amazing cook. By the way, or the rustle of pages as he devoured books from my library. He brought a warmth and a light to my life that I didn't even know was missing. My friends started noticing a change in me. "You're smiling, Damian," my best friend Alex pointed out over drinks. "It's like an actual happy smile. Not that corporate thing you do." "What's her name?" I just chuckled. "His name is Liam." Alex's eyebrows shot into his hairline. "Okay, tell me everything," but I couldn't. How could I explain that I was falling for a man who might be the reincarnation of my grandmother's tragic love? One evening I found him staring at the city lights from my balcony. He looked so small against the vast glittering skyline. Asked, "What are you thinking about?" I asked, joining him. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I'm thinking about how lucky I am. You saved me, Damian." I shook my head. "No, Liam, I think you're the one who's saving me." And in that moment, under the blanket of 1,000 city lights, it didn't matter if he was a ghost from the past or a miracle in the present. He was just Liam, and I was completely, irrevocably in love with him. Of course, that's when my phone rang. It was the hospital. My grandma wanted to see me. She was asking about Liam. The past and the present were about to collide, and I had a feeling it was going to be one heck of a show. Damian, nursing our little stray, Liam, back to health. A whole month has passed, and let me tell you, Liam is looking less like a half-drowned kitten and more like an actual functioning human being again. Damian's been spoiling him rotten with good food and a warm bed. It's been a whole month of domestic bliss, or as close to it as you can get with a skittish Omega and a broody Alpha. So, now that Liam doesn't look like he's about to keel over from a stiff breeze, Damian decides it's time for the next big step in there. Whatever this is. Damian has a very important person he wants Liam to meet, his grandmother. He pulls up to the hospital and you can just see Liam getting nervous, fidgeting with the hem of his oversized sweater. Probably one of Damian's. Damian, trying to be reassuring, which he's not great at, basically says, "Hey, I need you to go in there and take care of my grandma. Just be your charming self." Charming self. Liam's default setting is spooked dear. They walk into the private room, and there she is, Damian's grandmother, looking frail and tired in her hospital bed. The moment her eyes land on Liam, something incredible happens. Her face, which was etched with weariness, just breaks. She starts to cry. But it's not a sad cry. It's this beautiful, happy, relieved kind of cry, like she's been waiting for this moment her entire life. She slowly, shakily, stretches out a hand toward Liam. Liam, bless his heart, doesn't even hesitate. And then Grandma starts to talk. With her voice trembling, she tells Liam all about her first love, a sweet boy from her youth. She talks about how they were madly in love, inseparable, but life got in the way. She says she wasn't strong enough back then to fight for their love, and because of that, they were forced apart. A regret, she says, that has haunted her every single day since. And as she's telling this heartbreaking story, she's looking at Liam with so much love and recognition, and she whispers the name of her long-lost love, who just so happens to be Liam's grandfather. The universe, folks, works in mysterious ways. Damian is just standing there, completely floored. He brought a stray Omega home, and it turns out he's the grandson of his grandma's one true love. You can't make this stuff up. Now here's where things get really wild. Before Liam showed up, Grandma was not doing well. For the past 2 months, she'd been declining fast, refusing treatment, basically looking like she was at death's door. The doctors were worried, Damian was worried, everyone was worried. But since Liam started visiting, it's like a miracle. It's like Liam isn't just an Omega. He's a walking, talking, supercharged battery of life force. In his presence, Grandma has done a complete 180. She's smiling again. Not just polite little smiles, but big, genuine, face-crinkling smiles. She's talking a mile a minute, telling stories, cracking jokes. The nurses are baffled. Damian is ecstatic. The woman who could barely sit up is now insisting on taking walks down the hospital corridor, with Liam, of course, dutifully by her side. She's even started eating properly, complaining that hospital food is terrible, but she'll eat it if Liam is there to nag her about it. And the biggest shock of all? She agreed to the treatment. The very same treatment she'd been refusing for months, she's now like, "All right, let's do this thing. Let's get it over with so I can go home and teach this boy how to cook properly." It's unbelievable. The doctors are calling it a medical anomaly. They're running tests, checking charts, completely baffled by her sudden recovery. They're attributing it to a positive change in her mental state. But we know the secret, don't we? It's the Liam effect. He's like a good luck charm, a fuzzy, anxious, cinnamon-scented good luck charm. Damian is seeing all of this, and you can practically see the gears turning in his head. This Omega he found on the street, this boy who seems so broken, is not only the missing piece of his family's history, but also the literal cure for his grandmother. His protective alpha instincts are going into overdrive. He was already feeling responsible for Liam, but now, Liam is precious. He's not just some Omega, he's family. It's the person who saved his grandmother. Every day, Liam visits. And every day, Grandma gets a little stronger, a little more like her old self. They spend hours together, Liam mostly listening, while Grandma tells him more stories about his grandfather, filling in the gaps of a family history he never knew. It's incredibly healing for both of them. Grandma is getting her will to live back, and Liam is finding a sense of belonging, connection to his roots that he's never had before. And Damian, he just watches them. This strange, fierce fondness growing in his chest. He came to the hospital expecting to say goodbye, and instead, he's witnessing a resurrection.
Oh.
All thanks to the quiet boy he decided to save on a rainy night. The bond between the three of them is solidifying into something strong and unbreakable. Ever since that day, Grandma told her epic tale of the runaway sausage, Damian couldn't get enough of Liam's laugh. He'd just sit there, supposedly reading a very important business report. But really, he was just watching Liam, whose face would light up every time Grandma cracked another one of her questionable jokes. It was like watching a flower bloom and fast forward, and it did something funny to Damian's chest. It felt warm. It's like he'd just chugged a mug of the world's best hot chocolate. He, Damian Sterling, the stone-cold CEO, was getting mushy over a laugh. This was a problem, a wonderful, delightful, and utterly terrifying problem. One evening, Damian found himself pacing outside Liam's door. He'd practiced what he was going to say at least a dozen times in the mirror. It ranged from a very formal Liam, I request an audience, to a much less cool, hey, so, you got a sec? He took a deep breath, knocked, and settled on a shaky, can we talk? Liam opened the door, looking surprised, but followed him to the office. The silence was thick enough to cut with a very expensive, CEO-approved letter opener. Damian, for the first time in his life, felt completely out of his depth. He just started talking. He told Liam about the first time he saw him huddled on that park bench, how his heart had twisted seeing those haunted, sunken eyes. Damian's voice was low as he described how it felt to bring him home, to see him eat a proper meal, to watch the fear slowly drain from his face. He talked about that first, hesitant smile, the one that barely touched Liam's lips but hit Damian like a lightning bolt. Then, he talked about the laughter, the real honest-to-goodness laughter that filled the mansion because of Grandma's silly stories. He confessed that each one of those moments had chipped away at the ice around his heart until there was nothing left. Liam was just staring at him, his own eyes shimmering with unshed tears. When Damian finally stopped, looking utterly vulnerable, a tear slipped down Liam's cheek. Then another. He whispered, I love you too, Damian. But then he shook his head, looking down at his hands. But this is your world, this grand house, your family. I don't belong here. I'm just me. I don't deserve someone like you. Damian's heart clenched. He crossed the room in 2 strides, gently tilting Liam's chin up so their eyes met. Don't you ever say that, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You belong right here with me. And then he closed the distance between them. And finally, they kissed. It wasn't just a kiss. It was a promise. It was a beginning. It tasted of salty tears and sweet relief, and it was perfect. The next day, they practically bounced into the hospital, hand in hand, ready to drop the biggest news bomb on their #1 supporter. Grandma was sitting up in bed, trying to convince a nurse that Jell-O could, in fact, be used as a projectile weapon. Damian cleared his throat. Grandma, we have something to tell you. Grandma squinted at their joined hands, a slow, massive grin spreading across her face. Liam blurted out, we're together, the resulting whoop. From Grandma could have been heard 3 floors down. It's about time, she bellowed, startling the nurse who dropped a tray of pills. I was about to lock you 2 in a closet until you figured it out. Wedding. We need a wedding. Right away. I want to be the flower, Grandma. I'll throw sausages instead of petals. Damian and Liam just looked at each other and laughed. Of course she would. The wedding day arrived in a whirlwind of flowers, frantic planning, and Grandma's very specific demands for the catering, which included a suspicious amount of sausages. The venue was breathtaking, an elegant garden bathed in the soft glow of twilight. But Damian only had eyes for Liam, who stood opposite him, looking impossibly beautiful. When it was Damian's turn to speak his vows, his voice, usually so commanding, trembled. He talked about a life lived in monochrome, all shades of gray and black, until Liam burst in like a sunrise, painting his world with vibrant color. He promised to spend every day making Liam laugh, to be his shield, his home, and his biggest fan. When it was Liam's turn, he took a shaky breath, tears already streaming down his face. He spoke of a life of shadows and cold, of feeling invisible and lost. He told Damian, you didn't just give me a home, gave me a reason to believe in warmth again. Saw me when I thought I was nothing, and you loved me. My vow to you is simple. My heart is yours, completely and forever. I will love you through every joke Grandma makes and every business deal you close. They sealed their vows with a kiss, and the crowd erupted in cheers. From her front row seat, Grandma winked and, true to her word, tossed a small, decorative sausage into the air. It was the most chaotic, beautiful, and perfect wedding ever.